What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. And tonight I'm here to break down the Missouri Tigers' 35-10 victory over South Dakota in the season opener in Columbia. And I've got quite a few thoughts on tonight's game and what transpired. So first of all, let me get this out of the way. I'm glad that we won tonight. First win of the season. Always nice when you win the first game. Yes, it's only South Dakota. Yes, it's an FCS opponent. But we've seen far too many times Mizzou lose to a team that they should be beating. And FCS upsets have happened many times before. So before I just get into the deep analysis of this game and what my thoughts are, I just have to be appreciative of the fact that we won. But let's move into discussing this game, all the positives, the negatives, the offense, the defense. Let's start actually with this, though, the quarterback battle, because I know that is the number one thing that everyone is talking about. It was the number one topic of conversation heading into this season. Who's going to start at quarterback? Who's going to win the QB battle between Sam Horn and Brady Cook? I always kind of felt like it was going to be Brady Cook. I've been leaning that way for a while. I've made videos in the past over the offseason saying that I thought it was going to be Sam Horn, but that mentality shifted as we got into fall camp and things progressed. And it just seemed like the way the coaches talked about it, that Brady Cook was going to be the starter. Now, Eli Drinkwitz did say that it's going to be a competition heading into the first couple games. He said he's not afraid to drag this thing out into the regular season games. And while he did say that, it pretty much seems like Drink knows who his starting quarterback is going to be. It's Brady Cook. That's why Brady Cook was the first one out there tonight. Drink even said that after the game. And let's just talk about those comments, because a lot of Mizzou fans were upset about the way that Eli Drinkwitz handled the Brady Cook versus Sam Horn QB controversy. Because right after the game, the sideline reporter asked Eli Drinkwitz who stood out at quarterback tonight, and Drinkwitz basically said something along the lines of, well, Brady Cook scored 28 points and Sam Horn only scored 7. I want the guy that gets us in the end zone the most. Now, if I were Eli Drinkwitz, I would not have said it this way. I understand why people are upset with the way that Drinkwitz said it, because you just don't throw your guy under the bus like that, and he kind of threw Sam Horn under the bus just a little bit. Also, I believe Sam Horn was not given a fair shot last night, because there was a clear difference in the way that plays were called for Sam Horn and how they were called for Brady Cook in the first half. Yes, Brady Cook, he produced more than Sam Horn, but the offense went into cruise control in the second half. That was very clear. I mean, Sam Horn had 5 pass attempts to Brady Cook's 21. So how can you say, oh yeah, Brady Cook gets us in the end zone more, when you didn't really give Sam Horn a chance to show anything? He was out there for about 20 or so snaps, and 16 of them or so were handoffs. Like, that's not, we didn't really get to see Sam Horn. He threw 5 passes. One of them was a touchdown, and one of them was an interception that wasn't really his fault. But he showed off the arm talent. He showed off the arm strength on one of his throws going over the middle of the field. I just don't think we learned that much about Sam Horn, because we just really didn't get to see it. We also didn't really learn much about Brady Cook, other than the fact he just kind of looks like the same guy as last year. But I think it's very clear that Drinkwitz has selected Brady Cook as his guy, as the starting quarterback for 2023. And even in his press conference after the game, he mentioned that Brady Cook has the leg up. That's why he was out there first. I'm not shocked by this. And again, I know Mizzou fans are upset about the way that Eli Drinkwitz handled this situation and talked about it after the game. And I think, you know what? That's fine if Drink wants to make Cook his starter. That's fine if that was his guy all along. But it does seem a little immature to lead everybody on with this idea that there was a QB battle going on, when it's really not that much of a QB competition. You could have just came out and said it way before instead of giving everyone hope that Sam Horn had a chance to start this year. And maybe he still does, and we're just overreacting to the first game, or we're overreacting to what Drink said. But the way that I saw it when Drink said those comments after the game about Brady scoring 28 and Sam Horn only scoring 20 or only scoring 7, sorry. It kind of made me feel like that again, Drink has known for a while that Cook was going to be his starter, and he knows what the fan base is saying. He knows what the media is saying. Sam Horn this, Sam Horn that, talking about the QB competition. And Drink is just kind of sick of hearing about it, and he doesn't really care all that much about what people think of his decision to make Brady Cook the starter. And I feel like it showed a little bit in that statement. Most of you who have been following me for a long time know that I am no Brady Cook advocate. I would welcome anyone else that isn't Brady Cook that Drink thinks is better. So I'm not like super thrilled that Brady Cook is the starter or anything, but I will say this, that I am not going to spend every single game of this year bitching about who the starting quarterback is, because I feel like a lot of Mizzou fans have just made this whole thing. They become so obsessed with this QB battle, Brady Cook versus Sam Horn, that they cannot fairly evaluate Eli Drinkwitz as a head coach or the Missouri Tigers as a football team. And I don't like, people can't even be appreciative of the fact that we won tonight's game because they're too worried about who the starting quarterback is. And it's just become an obsessive topic, and I really don't care to hear about it all year. Now, if Brady Cook ends up being the starter and he looks terrible at some point this season to the point where I think Eli should make this switch to Sam Horn, then I will say that. But I'm just going to trust for right now that Brady Cook is the safest option to win games this year, and that's why Drink selected him as the starting quarterback. Because really, if you watch the offense in the first half, yes, there were some of the same concerns that I've always had with Brady, like not placing a good ball on routine throws or throwing dangerous passes and not making the correct decision, rushing through his reads. All that stuff is still there. But he seems to have taken a better command of this offense, and he did have some pretty impressive drives, including the 2-minute drill that he ran at the end of the first half to score another touchdown and put 7 more points on the board. You know, that was really good execution by him. And I never wanted to rule out the possibility that Brady Cook could improve this year. Because after all, Mizzou was just a couple plays away from being 8-4 last year, and that was with Brady Cook at quarterback. Now, while I don't think that Brady Cook gives this team a very high ceiling, I do believe he provides a pretty safe floor. Whereas with Sam Horn, the ceiling might be much higher, but there's also the potential that it could be disastrous. I don't think that can be the case with Brady Cook. At least I don't hope so. Because, I mean, this offense was pretty bad last year, and we still managed to go 500 with an elite defense. The defense still looks to be elite this year, so all we need is for the offense to at least have a pulse. And from what I saw in the first half versus South Dakota, this offense is good enough to win at least 7 games. If you look at the offense's performance as a whole, yeah, you're not really all that thrilled because they kind of stalled out in the second half, only ended up scoring 35, but they really put it on cruise control, guys. I mean, a majority of the plays they ran were just handoffs to the running backs. They were just trying to chew clock. It was very obvious. So while I love a good blowout and you want to have a convincing win versus an FCS team and it doesn't look like an inspiring victory, I get that, but it's not like the game was ever in doubt. And I'll be more concerned if it's another really close game that makes you nervous against Middle Tennessee next week. Let's transition into talking about the offense as a whole, though. Like I said, I felt like they were good enough tonight to put South Dakota away pretty early. You know, like the offense that we saw tonight in the first half is good enough to win 7 games this year. I believe that. I think people look at the entirety of this offense's performance for the game and they become a little bit concerned. But really, it doesn't matter all that much. This game is not going to tell us anything. Uh, you know the saying, the only thing you can learn from an FCS game is bad things about your team. We're not really going to get any answers about this offense until after the K-State game. But as far as tonight, first of all, the running game looked a lot better than it did last year in this game alone. The offensive line is clearly improved in the run blocking game. Cody Schrader had a career high rushing yards with 138. He averaged 7.7 yards per carry. Nate Pete was right behind him, 14 carries for 52 yards. Brady Cook had 3 rushes for 17 yards, including a touchdown where he looked really good. However, there were a little too many penalties tonight for my liking. Offensive line has got to get that cleaned up. I thought they performed well tonight overall, but too many penalties. I mean, including a holding call that got Nate Pete's first touchdown wiped off the board. But it is early in the season, and that's kind of stuff you see early in the season is some undisciplined football. Guys are committing penalties, especially when they're not conditioned yet, because I'll get to the defense in a minute, but like Chris Abrams-Draine on defense got a holding penalty that was very uncharacteristic of him because the South Dakota receiver got past him. And it's like, Chris Abrams-Draine should be owning that matchup. And so therefore there shouldn't be any reason that he's doing that. But conditioning is a factor. And I also believe that contributed to the defense's struggle in the second half just a little bit. The receivers, man, what can I say? Luther Burden is an absolute stud. 7 receptions for 96 yards today. This is a guy that had just short of 400 receiving yards last year. He's basically already got 1/4 of that in the first game of the season. He looks like a legit dude this year. Last year, we saw glimpses, we saw flashes, we saw a lot of passes to the flats, gadget plays to get him involved. And we did see some of that tonight, and I'll get to that in a minute, as well as the offensive play calling overall. But Luther Burden was making some really impressive catches downfield, and that is progress from last year because that is an area in which we didn't see too much from him. Even tonight, he only had 17 air yards on all of his receptions, but still, you're seeing the plays being made downfield. This offense as a whole, however, I'm not seeing enough plays where the ball is getting pushed downfield. But to Luther Burden specifically, we saw glimpses of what this year can be for him. I still need to see more pushing the ball downfield from this offense. I need to see them take some shots. I'm disappointed we didn't see too much of that tonight. You got to wonder if that's just, it's South Dakota and they don't want to let too much out of the bag. But we'll get to the play calling in a second. I'm trying to hold myself back. Mekhi Miller, 2 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown tonight. Looked really good. It looks like he's going to be a starter going forward. Theo Weiss, the newcomer from Oklahoma, had 3 catches for 17 yards. He also had that nice one-handed catch that ended up being out of bounds on one of Sam Horn's incompletions, but the talent is clearly there with him. I expect him to be more of a factor as the year goes on, but he's the perfect complement to Luther Burden, and he certainly requires attention from the defense. All right, now on to the play calling. I was not super impressed with the play calling, especially in the second half. I understand that they're just trying to get through this game, but I feel like they could have done a little bit more. And this offense was very reminiscent of Drinkwitz's offenses from years past, to the point where it concerns me just a little bit that hiring an offensive coordinator and Kirby Moore doesn't move the needle as much as fans maybe thought it was going to. I hope this isn't a situation where Kirby Moore is just the offensive coordinator in name, but he's not really calling the offense and it's still Eli Drinkwitz, because this looked like an Eli Drinkwitz offense. Little too much playing behind the line of scrimmage, trying to force the ball to Luther Burden and hope he does something while dancing around 8 defenders and then he gets brought down for a loss. We saw a little bit too much of that. This was too reminiscent of Drink's offenses from years past. I hope tonight was just because it's South Dakota. They're not trying to let too much out of the bag before K-State, and we'll see some more stuff later. Because Kirby Moore's offense last year with Fresno State when he was the offensive coordinator was one of the best in the nation, and he really got the most out of his receivers. Can't really say that was the case tonight. Then again, the running game was really effective for this team, and so it would have kind of been stupid to do anything other than run the ball down South Dakota's throats when they were giving up, 5 or 6 yards a carry. So it is what it is. People are just eager to see signs that this offense has improved from last year, and I get it. I don't think we were ever going to get answers about that from week one, though. Because remember, guys, this team scored, 45, something like that against La Tech last year in the season opener, and everyone thought they looked really good. And then they ended up averaging like 25 points per game for the entire season. So it's week one. I don't think the team peaked in week one against South Dakota. I don't think this is going to be the best game they play all season. So we'll wait and see. I got to say one thing, though, kind of combining it with the offense, even though it's more special teams. But Harrison Mevis, what the hell is going on, dude? You went from all conference, number one kicker in the country to I'm not even sure we can put you on the field anymore, and I'm kind of wanting to see someone else. Harrison Mevis had the yips last year, or at least we thought they were the yips, but given that missing field goals that used to be routine for him, has me a little bit worried that this is something we have to be concerned about now. Harrison Mevis missed 2 of his field goal attempts tonight, in which had he made them, this would have been a 41-10 victory and a lot more convincing. But instead, people are left feeling a little bit underwhelmed, and a lot of that is due to the fact that Harrison Mevis can't be relied on to make a field goal anymore. I really hope he gets his crap together because he was a really special kicker in his first couple of years here at Missouri, and I really hope this isn't what he's become and that last year is just it's gotten into his head and made him a worse kicker. And on to the defense. They look pretty damn good, just like we all expected. And this defense is so fun to watch, man. They absolutely fly around. They held South Dakota to just 38 rushing yards on the night. Third down efficiency, South Dakota was only 2 of 13. South Dakota also went for it on 4th down 3 times. Mizzou stopped them on one of those 3 attempts, and that was on 60 total plays. That is pretty close to domination. And Mizzou, their defense was creating all sorts of negative plays. They were constantly bringing South Dakota's ball carrier down behind the line of scrimmage. The secondary was a little shoddy at times tonight, but I think that will improve as the season goes on. Even last year in the opener against La Tech, there were a couple broken plays where the secondary just looked lost, and La Tech was able to get a really big gain, get some chunk plays, or score a touchdown even. And that's just stuff you can expect to see early in the season. Miscommunication on the back end, that's common at this point in the year. And you just hope it gets cleaned up. Also, conditioning, like I mentioned earlier, I think that's a factor. And the defense kind of went into a lull in the third quarter when we were supposed to see Sam Horn, and then South Dakota had like a 10-minute drive or something crazy like that. And it's like, oh man, like what the hell? Like we're all waiting to see Sam Horn, and then the defense can't get off the field all of a sudden. And I think, at that point in the game, one, the defense isn't going 110%, but also they could just be a little bit gassed, still getting conditioned for the season. These guys can do whatever they want in fall camp. They can do whatever they want in spring ball, but that doesn't mean they're in game shape yet. You just won't be until you actually hit the field in a real game. But given Missouri's defense was missing a starting safety tonight and J.C. Carles, and they were also missing starting linebacker Chad Bailey, I think they were about as good as you could have asked them to be. I really loved what we saw from the defensive line. Darius Robinson was getting after it. Christian Williams was blowing stuff up. And Johnny Walker, the guy that the coaching staff hyped up all offseason long and was supposed to be next up after the loss of Isaiah McGuire and DJ Coleman from last year. Johnny Walker looks the part, man. He was absolutely wreaking havoc tonight. He looks really explosive off the edge. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to have a really big year. And then if you want to talk about guys who popped off the screen, how about Marvin Burks, the true freshman? He looks legit. He had a couple really big hits tonight. He had a sack, a really clutch sack where he just kind of flew out of nowhere. And this is a true freshman we're talking about, 4-star recruit that Mizzou flipped last minute from Ole Miss. And man, I am excited for him because he is absolutely going to push for playing time this year and potentially push for a starting spot by season's end. So I'm pumped for Marvin Burks, man. He looks fantastic. Overall, encouraging signs from the defense in this game. They seem to have it once again this year. We knew this defense was going to be really good. Can they be better than last year? We'll have to wait and see if that's the case. But we know that this team's bread and butter is its defense. That's how it's going to win its games. But we need the offense to show a pulse. We need the offense to score more than 25 points per game for the season. We need them to have more explosive plays and keep other teams on their heels so that there isn't so much pressure on the defense to go out there and be asked to execute perfectly over and over and over again, because that's just unsustainable. And too many times last year, we were hoping for the defense to score for the offense because the offense wasn't getting it done. And it was really tough to watch. I could understand a fan after watching tonight's game thinking this team looks a little too similar to last year. I get that, but let's just wait, guys. It's week 1. It's only week 1. I've already seen a bunch of overreactions on social media. I'm seeing them all over the message boards for Mizzou football. So let's just relax. Mizzou won tonight. There's things to be optimistic about when it comes to Brady cooking the offense. There's things to be optimistic about with this defense. We were really close to winning 8 games last year with a team that we thought wasn't very good. So I'm willing to give this team time. We can revisit some of these conversations after week 3 versus Kansas State, because I think that's when we're going to learn a lot of things about this team for this year. So those are my initial thoughts to open up the season following Missouri's 35-10 victory over South Dakota in week 1. But I want to hear from you guys. What are your biggest concerns, biggest positives from this game? Let me know down in the comments. I want to hear from y'all. Do you agree, disagree with me on anything? Please let me know. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com. I will see you all in the next one. MIZ.